And we are live, and welcome to another wonderful, incredible Wisdom Circle, a topic that is close to my heart and also such a needed discussion. So, of course, my name is Sophia from Sacred You, and we have the absolute honor of presenting these Wisdom Circles. And with us today is the beautiful Abby. I'm not going to get your surname, Abby. Abby Teixeira, who is facilitating healing the mother wounds, honouring the mother line, which, like I said, is such a needed discussion. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Abby, to introduce yourself and the topic and all these incredible women that have joined us from all over the world. And I will be back at the end. So thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you so much, Sophia. So yes, like you mentioned, I'm Abby Teixeira, and I'm speaking from Treaty 6 territory on Turtle Island, also known as Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. We were having a little brief discussion about our winters before we got on live. um, I'm a speaker, I'm a writer, I'm a 5-time best-selling author, as well as a trauma recovery guide and a feminine leadership mentor. I'm also a proud mama of 4. I'm a cycle breaker, and I primarily guide cycle breaking women and femmes, especially those healing from trauma, addiction, survival-based identities, who really feel the call for more, but are stuck in those patterns that many of us get stuck in, the self-doubt, the invisibility, the overwhelm, and really helping them to reclaim their voice, rebuild their identity, and step into embodied leadership, which has been my journey, my personal journey. And why this topic means a lot to me, like I mentioned, I'm a mama. I'm also a daughter. I'm a cycle breaker. I'm a survivor. And healing the mother wound has been one of the deepest, most transformative journeys of my life. It's really taught me that grief and love can coexist, and that we can honor our mothers and our maternal lineage while still telling the truth about the pain that we've experienced. And so this conversation is important because so many women carry a lot of wounds that didn't begin with them, and healing them has really the power to impact generations. And so I'm really excited to dive into this discussion. So I want to introduce the brilliant panelists that I have the honor and privilege of being able to have this conversation with. And I am just going to go by the order of who I see on my screen here. So just if you can share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what drew you to this conversation, and maybe what healing the mother wound means to you personally. I'd love to, hear that. So I'll start with Elizabeth.
Thanks so much, Abby. I'm so grateful to be here. My name is Elizabeth Kipp. I'm a stress management and historical trauma specialist, certified addiction recovery coach, and a certified yoga and meditation teacher. I also do ancestral clearing. As a practitioner, I've been an ancestral clearing practitioner since 2014. Really excited the first time I ever experienced the practice of ancestral clearing. I was like, what is this? And I just had I had no footing in the space. I didn't know anything about it. And it grabbed me and said, this is your mission, girl. So I just really embraced it. Within ancestral clearing, I have a couple of things that I really kind of specialize in. And one of them is the mother wound, wounds of the patriarchy, both for the men and the women. And the mother wound in particular, I think of all the imprints that I've received and the challenges, the mother wound has been the stickiest and the most revealing, the most profound. The teaching has taken me the deepest into my heart. And I've always said, kind of once I got my head kind of screwed on straight, that my mother was my teacher of compassion. She actually came onto the planet to teach me that. So that's kind of where I come from. And thanks so much for asking, Abby.
Wow, really powerful. Your mother was the teacher of compassion. Wow, that I can so relate to that deep. Thank you so much. Catherine.
Thanks, Abby. So I'm Catherine Crestani. I'm from Australia, the opposite side of the world. And I support women with feeling seen again in their own lives so that they can be connected and feel joy and excitement and actually be seen, heard, and felt. Because so often we will push aside our own needs, especially becoming a mum, in order to for the detriment of our own health, but to think it's for everybody else. So, I've had to unpack my own mum guilt. I've had to unpack the guilt that I put on my mum that I didn't need to put on my mum. And so often I found, working through my own process from within, that a lot of it was just a perspective shift. And when you start to let go of the beliefs of what things should look like and rather embrace what they are, that is when I started to see shifts in my own relationship with my own mum, but also with the rest of my family. So that's what pulled me to here. And why it's important is, well, if we don't work on this, then we're more likely to pass it on to our own children or our grandchildren, or, we can be the cycle breaker and we can stop those generations of pain and trauma being passed down, further and further. So these are why I find this panel especially is a really important discussion to have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Catherine. Anik.
Unmute button. Good morning, everyone. I'm Annick Patry, French Canadian living in Australia. We had that conversation before with Abby, who's in Canada, running away from the snow. um, well, I help heart-centered entrepreneurs. I founded the Voice Alchemist Academy, so to stop being silenced and to be loud, loud in the world with our messages and our voices, and share our passion for life and own our creative power, because we are creators, and we have the gift here, ladies sitting in the panel here today, to be conscious leaders, because we're cycle breakers and we have um, made some changes, and the changes that we make is to cut the cord. We have to cut the cord, the umbilical cord, with our mama. She really did the best she could, but like Elizabeth, my mom is definitely my compassionate teacher, that's for sure. That's for sure. So I was PTSD, super anxious, suicidal, like I had, like really dark thoughts, because I didn't feel safe and I didn't feel loved. And I decided not to have children because there was no freaking way I would pass down the patterns that I've received, to gracefully transmute it, and powerfully transmute it. But yeah, there was no way. So it is important that we have this conversation for sure, as long as we don't dwell in the past, because we are creators, and if we constantly going back to that story and we feed the story, it's like, if you overfeed your dog, he's going to get fat and eventually he's going to explode and he's going to get unwell. So, we have this conversation, yet we are going we are going into the embodiment of the version of ourselves that we want to be. Okay. That's where I'll stop here, and yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I feel like yeah, I feel this connection and this understanding, and yeah, let's create something new and magic for all of us
Beautiful.
and all of
Thank
you
you so much.
watching on replay or this panel.
Yes,
Yeah, thank you.
beautiful. Thank you. And last but not least, Lisa.
Hi, sorry I popped in a little bit late there. My Zoom was just spinning and it wouldn't let me in, but I finally made it in, so thank you. And thank you for having me. I signed up for this particular panel on this particular date because it's quite a significant date to the relationship between me and my mom, because 23 years ago today, my mom passed away. But that was the second time I got to grieve for my mom because the first time was when I was 14 and she moved halfway across the country. So the mother wound, I'm here to say, is real. For a long period of my life, my wound around my mother was abandonment. And I was always much closer to my dad's side of the family than my mom's side. And now I'm a mom. And since I became a mom, my viewpoint on motherhood and mothering has changed, mothering myself and mothering my children as well. And I have a daughter, and the cycle ends here. My mother had a very traumatic childhood growing up. Her entire family, it's just generations of trauma. I think probably most of us have those generations of trauma, and we just kind of pick it up and pass it to the next generation. And I've decided to be the stopping point for this and really work on that mother wound. And what it's taught me is compassion. So I think there's a theme here tonight when I hear the other ladies saying that their moms taught them compassion as well. So
Powerful. Ooh, we're just getting started. Those are just the intros, and so much goodness already. So, Lisa touched a little bit on this, but I'd love to hear how the mother wound has shown up in your own life. I know for myself, something that recently has come through for me that I understand is definitely from what I saw modeled to me is difficulty receiving. Whether that's receiving support, asking for support, opening up myself for support, that kind of a thing. Growing up, seeing my mom basically on survival mode our entire childhood, and that she worked hard, like she did what she could for us to, basically survive, which was all that it was. It was just surviving. Now in my adulthood and having my own children and being in a place where I'm really learning this muscle that we all carry of asking for support, of opening up ourselves for support, and then not having that difficulty with receiving, which also manifests into money blocks, like somebody said, I think on one of these wisdom circles actually, that when somebody says I have a money block, it's not a money block, it's actually a receiving block. And that really stuck with me. And I noticed that that's definitely a pattern that I noticed in my own mom, right? And so that's one way that it's kind of showed up for me, but I'd love to hear from you all how the mother wound has shown up for you. You go ahead and unmute and you can just share.
I feel for me, it came more apparent when I started I stopped unpacking all the stuff with my dad. And it was the person I was working with at the time. And he's like, we haven't talked about your mom. And I was like, no, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that relationship. And it was learning to accept that everyone else's version of that I could see in everyone else's mum around me, that I was longing for my mum to be, was just, again, that perspective, which is what I touched on. And it was that compassion that my mum was doing the best she could with what she felt she could do. But it was almost like a detached kind of energy. And I didn't want to be that for my child. Like, I didn't want to be like that. So how it came up more was the more when I was, pregnant, and when I was, becoming into that mum role, I purposely ran away from everything that I thought was the opposite to my mum. So it was almost like we completely reject that idea until we can accept that they are who they are, and it starts to come back in and balance that back out. And it was when I went, actually, you know what? My mum is who she is, and I accept that. I accept that, she doesn't have that more nurturing thing, but I have that in me. My astrology is definitely built into me. I'm Cancer Sun, Cancer Moon. You can't get more emotional and nurturing than a Cancer, but on the other aspect and flip side of that, it was, you can choose. You can choose what you want in your life, and you can choose how you allow people to show up, and you can choose how those memories impact you. Your past is just your past. If you choose to leave it there, it doesn't have to keep impacting you right now. You can learn from it, you can grow from it, but it doesn't have to keep defining you. And so for me, that was the biggest thing of how it showed up, is when I found myself stepping into this pattern that I didn't feel right for me or didn't feel aligned, actually holding myself up and going, actually, is this even mine? And do I want to do anything with it? Or is it time to just let it go?
Wow. Thank you. Anyone else have thoughts?
Sure. My mother wound, I didn't know it until it was much later, but showed up as a codependent vibe. And I just, my mom was undiagnosed and untreated bipolar, and she drank alcohol to deal with it. So a lot of dysfunction there and unpredictability. And what happened was, it was just kind of my natural tendency. I couldn't help her, but I did everything I could. I turned myself inside, outside, and backwards to do something, right? So I ended up kind of taking on, I decided it was my responsibility to make my mother happy. And I failed miserably, but but I kept trying, right? And then we had a real separation in our relationship when I was a teenager. But what was interesting was I didn't understand it until I read this book, Mother Hunger. I'll find the author in a minute. It's an amazing book. And I was listening to that book, and I was like, oh, I see what's happening here. So I got out of that relationship when we separated from my mom as a teenager. But every relationship that I had, I kept turning myself inside, outside to get them to love me. It was this pattern. And when I didn't understand any of it until really got into recovery and started working with codependent behaviors. So that's kind of how it showed up for me. And by the way, that's another thing that I have a little specialty in, is that codependent thing. And I don't know how we can help but be codependent with our family members, especially like parents, children. I don't know how we can. So the idea there is to find the balance the best you can, and really like own your authenticity and try not to turn into a chameleon in front of your parents and children. Right? Yeah. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. There's a few things, but I guess one of the biggest wound, what I observed and what I had to become conscious. I had to become conscious of it because I was not conscious for for a while. Is that it's that receiving piece, because my mom was not receiving my love. She was like, it was like hitting a iceberg, like I'm Anik, the Titanic. Like I was just like trying to, no matter what I was, if I had 100% at school, I was very good at school. It was never good enough. And everything I was doing, I was the most gorgeous little girl. I was an amazing ice skater, winning all the medals. I was a pianist. I was like, everything I touched turned into gold. But it was like I was crucified to be myself. So, and I was trying to give, love, and it was pushed away. Like I remember on Mother's Day bringing a beautiful bouquet of flowers. And the little girl, she so wants to be loved by her mom. I mean, that's what she craves so much, and she was humiliating me and laughing at me. Oh, she gave me flowers, like it was completely like. So I saw a woman not being able to receive at all, and I'm like, wow, okay, I'm not gonna be that person. I'm not going to be that person. But it's something to untangle and to, you have to, first of all, receive yourself. You have to receive yourself, receive life, um, receive the breath. It starts with very, very subtle little simple things, but so it's been a big journey. And I mean, it's constantly unfolding, being aware of like receiving good ideas and executing that ideas that God gives you, an inspiration. You receive an inspiration as an intuitive guide that we all are, a sensitive, empathic, receive amazing ideas. I'm a creative, I'm an intuitive, I'm an empath. So receiving that and saying thank you, and then taking that idea and giving birth to it and executing, taking the actions, having faith and trust. It's like a whole process. And if you haven't witnessed your own mother, the mother is there to give you the security, the safety, the nourishment, and you haven't seen someone giving that to themselves and offering you that as a woman, as a lady, as a female. You have to find new role models. One of my first role model was Louise Hay. She had it pretty tough as a child and a young lady, and I'm like, wow, she's really transformed herself. And I started to follow her religiously, and I saw something else possible. Her generation, there's not that many of her generation. I mean, she died a few years ago. She was 92, I think. And finding a new model, and then step by step by step,
Mhm.
you know. And I chose not to have children because I was terrified. I was terrified that I would do the same to my kids. And I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna hurt my kids. There's no way I'm gonna learn to love Anik first, me first, know who I am, know what I want before I, transmit unconsciously um, that ancestral stories.
Mm.
I think that's wise. Sometimes I have regrets, but in my ego, I'm like, oh, I would have been such a cool mom. I'm so much fun. I'm so playful. I would have loved my kids so much. And but I'm like, that was a wise decision. That was a wise decision. It was what it was. And now I've got friends, I've got clients, I've got my friends' kids, and you know, c'est la vie. C'est la vie.
Thank you. Thank you. Really, really powerful. Lisa, any thoughts on how the mother wound has shown up for you in your life?
Yeah, but I was going to say, Anik, you are mothering so many people in the world. And had you become a mother, you might not have been able to spread that maternal love that you have for so many people. Um, yeah. So I mentioned a little bit that abandonment has been a big wound in my life, but also the receiving. And I think they go hand in hand. Um, m- and just listening to some of the other ladies talk about the relationship with their mothers, I know my mom was proud of me, and I was kind of a golden child too. I had lots of, good grades, and I was at the top of the class, and I always did what I was told and followed the rules. And but there was never like when I think back to the memories that I want to make with my children, I don't have those memories with my mom. So there's always a little bit of a distance. But if I look even further back, she lost her mom when her mom was 39 and my mom was 16. So she had to help raise the children in her family while my grandfather was a really bad alcoholic. And so that dysfunction just carried on. So that sense of safety and the abandonment has played a big role in my life throughout in all my relationships. Um, and even sometimes now I catch myself with my kids like, oh, what if they want to move away when they're older? And no, that's what we want them to do. We want them to grow up and spread their wings and leave the nest kind of thing. So it's a wound that I continue to heal to this day, and I think I'll continue to heal for the rest of my life. And I'm trying to set the very best example for my daughter and my son on what it means to be kind and compassionate and to show somebody your feelings, which was something that my mom had a hard time doing. I think like you never really knew what was happening in her mind, and she liked to keep things to herself. Even when she was diagnosed with cancer, and she was really sick, she didn't want anybody to know. So all of a sudden she was gone, but we had spent 2 years caring for her and the rest of the world didn't know. So there was that kind of isolation and lack of an ability to receive help at a time when she needed it the most, I think. Yeah. So it's something I'm still working through, and I think it's important for all of us to really, really take a look at the relationships with our mothers, um, and recognize that all of our mothers did the best that they can with what they had, and that we all came into this incarnation with choosing who our mothers and our fathers and our friends and family are, and that there's lessons to be learned, and to do your very best to learn those lessons from them. Um, I just wish I had known that when I was in my 20s, but
Yeah,
it is
thank
what
you.
it is. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. What would you say? And like, I completely agree that the healing the mother wound, it comes in layers. And just when you think that you've gotten to the innermost layer, another layer appears. And especially depending on the season of life that we're personally moving through, right? Certain things come up and we're confronted with those things. But what have been the most unexpected parts of healing your relationship with your mother, or the mother line, or the mother wound, in your journey? I know I've heard some elements throughout all of your shares around compassion, around forgiveness, that kind of a thing. But I'd love to hear what have been, some of the unexpected parts of your healing journey of healing the mother line and mother wound.
I think for me, it's the vulnerability. So the being able to receive, and again, this is still a lesson I am learning because I grew up watching a woman who was very strong and didn't accept help from anybody, and was seeing that if you cried, it was a weakness, and if you expressed emotion, it was a weakness, and if you accepted help, and you should be able to do it all. You can work, you can keep your house immaculate, you can make sure your kids have the best of everything. Um, and I think I grew up thinking that that was the model that I had to be, but now I realize that that's not realistic for anybody. So my mother drank on the weekend, so that's probably how she dealt with the burnout, right? Of living this perfect, seemingly perfect life, and then having to crash out in her 30s and leave, abandoning her family. Um, so I think that was the biggest thing for me, is that I don't have to follow all of the rules that was set out for me. Like, this is my life. This is my chance to do it. And when I had children, I decided that it was more important to take them to the park or to the swimming pool or to the zoo and have those fun mommy memories with them, rather than me home scrubbing the floors and keeping everything in line. You know what I mean? So I think that was the biggest surprise for me, is how far away from that structured life I've gotten.
Wow, love that. Really, really powerful. My gosh, the cleaning standards. My mom was the same. Like, our home was immaculate at all times. And early in my motherhood journey, I tried to imitate that example, and
Same.
I
Yep.
I burnt out so many times. Like, it was
I
just, and then
know.
fighting with my husband,
Yep.
like, why can't we keep, meanwhile we had 4 kids under 3, like
Yep.
4 kids under 4.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's an impossible standard. My house had plastic over the carpets. So
Mm.
I was born in the 70s, right? So we had plastic over the carpet and plastic over the good furniture in the good living room that nobody could sit on.
Yeah.
And my mom never unplugged the vacuum cleaner. Like she just like they're the memories I have of my mom. And I cherish her and I cherish the memories we have, but they're not exactly the memories I want to leave for my kids, right? So yeah.
Yeah, so relatable. Anyone else have some thoughts or share?
Well, I'd like to share. I'm going to share that when I was about 60, we did some genetic testing, and the doctor got 30 seconds into the report, and I was like, "Oh my God, my mother never had a shot coming out of the womb." I just had this understanding that she didn't she didn't have the tools. She didn't have the knowledge. I mean, I just so so for me, the biggest surprise was, if I look back on my life and kind of how it went down, it's that I had tools and I was able to wake up from the just like living with the programming I was born with, and it was I mean, it's profound for me now. I still feel that in my heart that, she just didn't have the kind of support that we have now, and like not even like none of it, right? So that was something I never would have expected that as I was growing up. I was just like, I never would have expected that I would be here now. It wasn't even in like the radar, the distant at all. Yeah. Okay.
Wow. Such great shares. There's so much I want to say of everyone's shares, but I'd love to hear if Anik has anything to share.
Share about what? What do you want to hear?
What's been the most unexpected part of healing your mother wound or your relationship with your mother or the mother line?
Unexpected part
Mhm.
of the
Mhm.
healing. Um, well, I don't know what's coming up for me now is like really forgiveness is a big thing. Forgiveness. Because there were phases in my life where I used to hate her with, like I used to hate my mom. What a freaking bitch, man. Like, how dare she could be so horrible, so cruel, so mean. How dare? And so forgiveness and the shadows of the humanity, like really seeing these shadows, they live in every one of us, you know what I mean? It's like it's like the mean girl. I had to really do so much healing on my mean girl, my inner critic. She comes back every now and again, um, but I have a whole different relationship with the part of my egos that the part of the shadows. Like, what you have to really become, like, you have to have a massive like a big wake up. You have to wake up, and most of humanity is not. Like, here we're sitting in this panel having this conversation, but we're probably like not even 1% of humanity, you know what I mean? There's a tiny weeny little 0.0 something um percentage of humanity who's awakened. So, first of all, you got to wake up to this scenario that's going on in your body, in your mind, in your nervous system, um, and getting out of the victim. Like, for years I thought I was a victim. Like, I felt powerless, helpless. I thought I was like, this is the only way life is. Like, you know what I mean? Um, like, sort of enduring existence. Um, and my go-to was like, well, when is it gonna end? I can't wait till it's over. Like, it's so yeah, forgiveness, compassion, and do you know, like one day, every time I was talking, like I moved to Australia, obviously I moved as far as possible as I could, like, you know, I ran away from the snow, but I ran away from traumas as well. And so I every time I was talking to my mother on the phone, she was bullying me, and you know what I mean, it was always quite intense and heavy. So I, because I'm super sensitive, like I would, the call was ending with lots of tears, and I would feel horrible for a couple of days. And one day I draw a line in the sand. I drew a line in the sand and I said, listen, that's it. I said to my mom, I'm not gonna call you again. That's the last call, because I feel shit every time I speak with you. And from now on, if you want to have communication with me, it's on email. And so the transformation in that experience, because I set a boundary, a standard for myself, it's been extraordinary. She's been saying the most beautiful words like I've ever heard ever, how much she adores me, that she's proud of the woman I became, that she wants me to be the happiest woman on earth. Like things that really moved me to the core, like incredible. Because I want people to hear this, you know, like because I set a boundary and I said no more of this pattern. We're going to take a different direction and use a different tool to communicate. And it has created a huge amount of changes, because now imagine how she feels about herself when she gives these beautiful words, and how I feel as a human being, as a woman, from my mom to receive that softness, that kindness, that love that I've never received before. So this is a transformation in itself. It starts with a decision, number one, a choice, a decision, and a different pathway, a different action, a different way, choosing a different way. Because you've been circling in a loop, like these phone calls. Oh yeah, I speak to my mom and then I feel like a piece of shit. Oh yeah, I speak to my mom and then I feel like a piece of shit. And then it takes me 2 days, 3 days to come. You know, like, so your body records that, your mind records that, and you're that little robot. And this is what you experience. And then you don't receive when you're in that state, because you're not able to create anything else. You know what I mean? You have to see it though. You have to recognize it. You have to see it. It's big, you know, it's big. I really hope it serves somebody who's watching, who's listening, because it has worked, you know, like it has worked. And I love my mom. She's an incredible artist. She's an incredible artist. She's the most gifted woman. I mean, I can talk a lot about this, but I mean, she made all our clothes. We win the best prizes at Halloween for the best costumes at school. She made the most beautiful food. She wrote poetry. She made lamps, curtains. She sings, like her dream was to be an actress. She's an amazing, creative, artistic woman who stayed in her shadows. And I break this cycle, you know? I break this cycle. Amen.
Amen. Really, really freaking powerful. I had chills the entire time. I just the level of cycle breaking and the power, reclaiming what it feels like to reclaim your power, literally. You know, when you come from a place of literal powerlessness, right? Especially when somebody growing up is such a big figure in our reality, right? Like, oh my goodness, this person, it's like on a pedestal, right? I know I felt that way with my mom for a very long time. She could do no harm, even though she was harming, right? So, Catherine, I'd love to hear any thoughts that you have.
I think the most surprising thing in how it showed up was acceptance. just learning to accept people exactly where they are and learning to drop all the judgment. Because I grew up in I'm not gonna lie, a pretty judgy family. Like it was like, oh no, like, did you see so and so did this, and did you see so and so did that? And it was this constant comparison which never really sat with me. Even when I had my business partner, she would always be comparing what we were charging to what the other practices were charging, and I would always be like, let's just stay in our own lane, let's just focus on us. And I find when I accepted my mum for being my mum exactly how she is, then I could accept myself for exactly how I was and everyone else around me. And that took me out of judgment too. So I stopped judging and just was curious, like, oh, and that's something I love to teach my child is like, yes, this might be happening, and yes, it might not feel right for us, but we don't know what their truth is. And, when we learn what's our truth, it's really hard to judge somebody else because we realize that someone else's truth, what they're doing is right for them. I learned to say, I'm grateful that that's not my life, or I'm grateful that that's not my mind, and things like that. But at the same time, it just helps you stay in that point where you're not judging, you're not blaming, you're not shaming, you're just accepting, okay, this is how it is, this is where I'm at. And I can choose to do better if I want to, or I can choose to stay where I am. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't make me any more or less worthy. It makes me exactly who I am, and I'm exactly where I need to be.
I love that, Catherine. So good. As we're winding down here in the conversation, I definitely want to hear um, just any strengths or gifts or wisdom that you feel you've inherited from the women who came before you, whether it's your direct mom or when you go down the ancestral lineage. I know that's been a really big journey for myself, is really learning, because I only know very, very little about, there's my mom, my grandmother, and my great grandmother, and then it kind of ends. Like I don't really know very much past that. So I've just been doing a lot of and Elizabeth talked a little bit about like ancestral healing and that kind of a thing and how powerful that work is. And there are some things, because yes, I do come from a lineage on both sides, whether it's my paternal and maternal, of poverty, abuse, addiction, violence, all those things. I see that. I see it very clearly. But in it, there's also been some gifts that I can't overlook, and that has really shaped me in becoming who I've become, right? Like I just think my mom was a very resourceful person growing up. If she needed to get something figured out, she would figure it out. And I've very much have really taken that quality as well in myself, where if there's a dead end that we get to, it's like, okay, instead of saying, okay, that's it, I'm quitting, I'm giving up, I'm like, okay, how can I get around this? Do I need to climb it? Do I need to go around it? Do I need, like that kind of a thing? And my mom was very resourceful in that way, and I know that my grandmother was also that way, and that's how she kind of learned that. And so I'm grateful for those kind of gifts that were imparted. But yeah, I'd love to hear what has come through for you in terms of strengths, gifts, wisdom that you've been able to inherit from the women who came before you.
I can go. My intuition, that we have a really strong lineage of intuition on my family, to the point like when I was in hospital giving birth to my son, I didn't tell any of my family. It's just my husband and I didn't want the drama, right? I was like, nope, it's just going to be our experience. My mum and my nan are both calling me at the same time, and I'm there like and I was like, and they're like, yeah, we just knew you were in labor. Like they knew if you're going to have a boy or a girl, like they just knew all these things, but they just kind of pushed it to the side. And it was only when I stepped more into my spiritual work and I was telling my mum about it, she goes, oh yeah, we come from a long line of white witches. It's on the Irish side. And no one talked about that until I started practicing it and I started doing it. And even, like I can see spirits and ancestors, and I don't say I'm a medium, but if they come through in a reading, they come through, kind of thing. And and my mom's like, oh yeah, you know how hard it was to see your great grandfather all the time? And I was like, I said as a little girl that I could see him, and you would tell me that we went to the funeral and he had gone to heaven. But it was only later that she felt safe enough to have that conversation with me. So I am very grateful for that intuitive line. I'm very grateful for those white witch gifts. I'm very grateful for all of that, but I had to resurface that. And I wonder if it's 7 generations. I'm curious. I don't know how far back it goes. But that is why I have this little bit of Irish in me, and why I get pulled to Celtic stuff and runes and all these sorts of things. So all those traditions are still in my DNA, and I'm carrying them, and they come out in such a beautiful way. Like, I was like, why am I so attracted to runes and Nordic culture and all those things? And then, you trace it back through the Celtic thing. Why am I so pulled to nature? Oh, there's all the Druidry, all that sort of thing. So that is something I'm incredibly grateful. And also, my mum is incredibly intelligent, and I am grateful that I am also like that. We both have excellent memories. We don't forget things, and people don't know what to do with that when I remember so much about people. Part of it, I know, is that it's my guides giving me the information as I need it. But at the other point is that has come through my family line too. So I'm very grateful for that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
I love the Irish thing, because that is definitely something that's in my family as well. So that's one of the things that I'm grateful for inheriting from my mother and her line, and also her father's line. Like, that whole generation of folks came from Ireland. So I'm also wondered why I was really drawn to that kind of thing too. But I also want to add that I've learned resiliency from my mother. Like, she was always able to pull herself up and keep going. And I saw that strength and I really admired it. Although sometimes I wish it was a little bit softer. And then on the other side of it is that there was a lot of things that my mother wanted to do in her life that she didn't do, and she had a very short life. She died when she was 51. So I learned not to save the good chocolate for a special occasion. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's something that I want in life, it's time to go after it now, not later. So, and that's a gift that I thank her for.
Beautiful. Go ahead, Elizabeth. I know you unmuted.
I learned I got resilience. Funny story about that. My brother and I really felt pretty challenged as kids, and my paternal grandmother, she knew what was going on. She couldn't. There wasn't anything she could really do about it. But she told us one day. She said, "You come from strong stock. You're made from strong stock." And my brother and I still remember that. Like, it was something that I'm like, really? It's like, as a kid, I'm like, well, I hope that's true. I didn't really understand that it was there all the time for me. That piece. And the other one was, my mother was an incredible artist, and I could not do art class. Like, that was not, I didn't get beyond finger painting. And it just didn't, I didn't get it. I still can't really draw, but I sure can write. And I didn't expect that. It never occurred to me that that I would have access to that, which is the intuitive part. And I was told, my family was like, bow to the mind, not the heart. And intuition is like, what is that? We don't want to hear about that. But it was in the line all the time, right? So I had all three of those things: resilience, creativity, and intuition. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
My turn. Well, it's all been said. I love Elizabeth. Yeah, it's exactly the same for me. Resilience, intuition, and artist, like creativity artist. My mother's mother, my grandmother, who passed it ages ago. Oh my gosh, how old would she be now? 100 and something. My mom just turned 84 on the 31st of May. Um, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was so in Quebec, where I'm from, Montreal, Quebec, back in the days, like the church had a lot of control. You know, they were deciding how many kids that the women were just there to procreate and have kids basically, and they were putting pressure on that. It was pretty horrible. um and my grandmother, she had five sisters, and she was the kind of avant-garde, like she was the odd one, like, like us, the black sheep. She was a bit different, and so she's the only one who got married, and she was reading the tarot, but it was a secret. Everything was secret. She was bipolar. That was a secret. No one knew. It was hidden. Like there was a lot of shame. You couldn't show up as yourself. But anyway, I was quite close to her, and she was reading the tarot. And one day, my younger sister, I just got one sister. She had a car crash, a massive car crash, really bad. I mean, she was okay, but like it was pretty intense. And my grandmother saw that in the cards, and she told me, she said, Jesus, your sister's going to have a car crash. I'm like, what? And it happened. Um, but it was all like secret. Anyways, but so yeah, and on my father's side, my other grandmother is 100% Native American Indian. So all the shamanism and shamanic and intuition. So intuition is definitely in my both lineage, and the resilience for sure, the resilience and the creativity, like in both family as well, like with everyone plays music, and it's just a lot of beautiful gifts and talents there, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Really beautiful. Amazing. I want to ask one more question, but I also see that we are winding down in time. And I do see we have an audience member, Lulu. If you'd like to come on camera and ask a question or share a reflection, I'd love to invite you to do that. If not, you can just type in the chat and, oh, you did type in the chat. Oh, there you are. Wonderful.
Hi. Yeah, I come from a long line of women. I'm one of six girls, as in five sisters. I have on my paternal side, my grandmother was, they used to say she would have premonitions, is what they would say, and she would see things. And then I learnt that we have a history of the, I think it's Romanian gypsies on that side of the family, but I didn't learn that till I was an adult. Whereas my mother's maternal side, there was much more a religious focus in the family, the Catholic religion. And I remember saying I'd seen, auras around plants, and I was told very quickly, don't ever say that again. And I realized, oh, that I should remember that. That's very important to remember, because it got such a reaction. So I remembered, when you have things, make sure that you don't lose them. So I did keep hold of those things. And I do have a longevity in my family. I have a grandma that passed at 104, but my mother died at 58. So her mother lasted 104. So I'm aware that, both sides of the family, I have quite longevity genes. So I'm hoping, I last that long. Now I'm in my 60s. And yeah, I'm aware that in the lineage there's some fracture with one of my daughters, that it feels like I now have to kind of repair it from the other side as well as I was repairing it from this side. So it's been a lot of work to find the best way to approach that, especially after getting divorced, 30-year marriage, and then that's when kind of the split of one of my daughters. So yeah, just sharing where I'm at, and I'm a friend of Elizabeth's and been in numerous book collaborations with her. So just came on, and nice to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna chance it, but if you could just share just one thing that you wish a woman knew about healing the mother wound, what would that be? And as laser as possible, whether it's a sentence or a word, I'd love to hear what's one thing that you wish every woman knew about healing the mother wound. And I'll
The
just call you
greatest,
out. Yeah, go
okay.
Elizabeth.
The
Go Elizabeth.
greatest healer lives within you.
Mm,
Boom.
yes, thank you. Catherine.
How do I follow up on that? No, accepting where you are and that you're exactly where you need to be.
Mm, thank you. Lisa.
I would say it's really hard work, sometimes very painful, but very much worth it.
Mm, yes, thank you. Anik.
Have the courage to open your heart, follow your heart,
Mm,
and live from your heart.
beautiful. Such beautiful medicine. Thank you all. Lulu, do you have any words or anything that you would say to somebody about healing the mother wound?
Yeah, the journey's not easy, and sometimes you will be the scapegoat of the whole family lineage, and that's pretty heavy magic that we have to work through. It feels like a burden at first, but then it could be the magic that supports in every direction.
Beautiful. Such wise words. What a great wisdom circle this was. Thank you all so much for sharing from your hearts and your beautiful medicine. I've learned some things myself that I'm taking away, and most of all, just how amazing it is to, in this time, in this, like, just the synchronicities of, being here together, having this conversation, us coming from all these different walks of life and scenarios, and being able to impart what it looks like from the other side. We may not be totally on the other side, but we're definitely not where we used to be, and we're not continuing the cycles that were unfortunately given to us that weren't ours to carry in the first place, right? And this is really brilliant work. It's not easy, but it is also healing, it's healing our homes, our communities, and the world beyond. And I totally believe that we do have the power to do that. And so my imparting words around healing the mother wound is that, as we heard in this conversation, it's not about blaming our mothers. We understand, we have compassion, but really becoming conscious of what we've inherited, and right, and giving ourselves the ability and the permission to grieve what was missing, and honoring what was given, right? We took away lots of beautiful medicine that we actually received from some of our moms, right? As flawed as they may have been, right? And so we may not be at the beginning of the story, but we can become the turning point. And I truly believe that. So thank you all so much. And thank you, Sacred You, for hosting us. And I'll bring Sophia back on with us.
Thank you, Abby, for another absolutely amazing wisdom circle. And of course, everyone else, Elizabeth, Catherine, Anik, and Lisa, for sharing all your wisdom about healing the mother wounds. And welcome, Lulu. We're grateful and honored that you're able to join us. A great conversation. I'm going to be listening to the replay, and anyone who's watching live or on the replay, do click on the links below and reach out to some of these amazing women who have just given up an hour of their time to share their experience of something that we all go through in our journey, different things. We all have to face those mother wounds and also our father wounds, but that's another conversation too. So, and as usual, do click on the links below, like I said, and check out Sacred You while you're there. Come and join us, hang out in the village. Check out all our other upcoming wisdom circles, which are coming very, very soon. And until then, have a beautiful day and thank you.